Hello, members from whichever part of the world you're looking in from. My name is John McChain, and I'm a Master Ambassador with the Society. I've been an ambassador quite a long time, but a member for a lot longer, I can assure you. I was involved really from the very beginning, and it's wonderful, actually, in the last 13 years for me to have been able to be a tasting ambassador of different parts of the world and meet many members from all over, which I've really enjoyed the experience of doing. And also meeting you in your own countries and meeting you over here when you're visiting Scotland has been a really, really great experience. We'd really like to talk about how we go about doing a tasting. As you know, all of our whiskies have to be vetted by our tasting panel. Various people, some of our own society experts, some people who are experts in whiskey from outside the society, a couple of really well-known chairmen from outside the society, and we have a lot of fun doing that. But the thing about the tasting panel is that we have to take it seriously and objectively, because what we are trying to do is evaluate whiskey for our members. So it doesn't matter whether we like it or not. What we're trying to do is evaluate whether there's enough balance there between the new make spirit and the cask flavours that have arisen over the years that's spent in that wood. We then give it a score and we give it a flavour profile and all that kind of thing so that you can enjoy it. I think the main thing to do before we go on to the tasting is remember a few things. If you're a new member, you may not be fully aware of it yet, about the lack of no chill filtration, no colouring, no dilution, no secondary dilution of the whiskey, and that makes a big difference in how you can enjoy and experience tasting the whiskey. And one of the main things which I want to try and talk you through is how we go about deciding how we're actually going to build a tasting note. Well, let me tell you something. This can sound very complicated, but in fact it's not. It's completely natural. What you're actually doing with the whiskey is you're actually experiencing the whiskey with your brain. Your nose and your palate are only the advance guard for the army of abilities that you have in your brain. So when you're testing the aroma or the palate through your nasal cavities, which lead to your limbic system in your brain, where also your memory resides, then sometimes the aroma will remind you of a particular place or a moment in time. All of the aromas and tastes and flavours which you've experienced over time are lodged there and can be brought back. So we have what we call direct and indirect tasting notes. Now the direct tasting notes are probably the simplest to try and explain. You take a whiskey and you try to sense the flavours. It might be fruity, it might be meaty, it might be vegetal, then try and develop it from there. But the indirect flavour notes are something very, very personal to you. They may remind you of something which is particular to you and a memory in your life. That's why you get notes such as Granny's, Grandma's Christmas kitchen and things, or a memory of a wonderful holiday you once had and loved. So the first thing you can do is appreciate the colour of the whiskey, because with society whiskey, the colour has completely come from the cask. And we have 7 colour grades in a society, from the lightest gold to the darkest mahogany, and it helps to give you an idea of what that cask may have given colour-wise to the whiskey. So here we have quite a rich golden colour there, and if you give it a little twirl and have a look at the legs, or the tears are sometimes called, running down the glass, it can give you an idea of strength as well. So that's the first part of the enjoyment, is appreciating that colour, okay? Some whiskies you can't do that with if artificial colouring has been added. Okay? So then we're going to nose the whiskey. So this is important. If at this strength, this cask strength, if you sit with your nose in the glass for 40 seconds, you probably will lose your sense of smell until next Tuesday. The whiskey's too strong. Just let it pass under your nose and get the initial flavours. So if you're nosing the whiskey, there's some flavours will definitely come from the type of wood. Whether it's first fill bourbon or first fill sherry, second fill bourbon, second fill sherry. Sometimes the whiskey may have been extra matured in a different type of cask, which then means you've got 3 areas of flavour to play with. You've got the new make spirit, what did that produce? The first cask, what flavours did that give? And then the extra mature cask, what did that add to it? So you've got a whole load of complex flavours going on there. And if you, as you're taking the aromas, write down what you're getting from those aromas. And remember, in the society, we sometimes talk about sweet, fruity, and mellow is one of our flavour profiles, for example. Sweet, fruity, and mellow. Great. There's 2,000 fruits in the world. So if we've got a panel sitting in Edinburgh, which that day happens to be mostly Scotsmen, then we might be talking about fruits that we grew up with and we know from where we lived and where we were brought up. You might get something completely different, although it's the same aroma. So my Scottish raspberry, for example, might be your Chinese bayberry, okay, if I'm saying that properly. So you actually write down whatever aromas you're particularly getting and then try and develop it in your brain to how that flavour develops. As I said before, is it fruity? Okay. What type of fruit is it? Okay. Is it raw fruit? Is it cooked fruit? And all that kind of thing. So gradually you build up a kind of almost like a developed tasting note. We're going to sip it neat, undiluted to begin with. Now, there's one thing about this. This is cask strength whiskey. And even if you're used to drinking society cask strength whiskey, the very first one you take on any particular day might give your trigeminal system a bit of a shock, okay? Because it's very strong. So in this case, we're talking about 58.7%, okay? So 58.7%, a little sip. Let it chew in your mouth for a little bit. Let it finish. And your retronasal cavity at the back is carrying those flavours again to your brain to match up what you've already experienced from your orthonasal cavity as you were nosing. Okay? That's 58.7%. So let it wash over you. What are you thinking? So now we're going to add a little bit of water. And let me tell you, folks, these pipettes. People use pipettes. Now, I will use a pipette today, but I always feel as if when I'm using a pipette, I should be in a laboratory with a white coat on or something. For me, it just doesn't seem that natural, you know. But we'll do it today. You can apply a couple of drops, okay? You can add more. You can't take it away, so be careful. What the water will do is it will release some hydrophobic molecules, different volatiles, and might even mask some of the ones you've already experienced, okay? But it can change the flavours dramatically. Now, it's got a much lighter, citrusy feel than it had before. The maltiness is dissipated somewhat. I think there's a bit of banana coming through now too. So, if I was doing a tasting panel, I'd be writing all this down. I'd be giving my views to the chairman. He'd be taking notes of them from all people around. So let's have a little go and see. Oh, yes. Yes. It's almost a floral note coming up. My retro nasal cavity there. Floral and citrusy, and a real kind of spicy bite. It's actually developed quite a spicy bite at the end. This is actually delicious. This is delicious. So I hope you enjoyed that, folks. I hope that will help you get more enjoyment, more experience out of tasting your own whiskey. Feel free to let us know, let your branch know what you think, or if you've got any questions. But get involved. I mean, it's fantastic. Get a group of your friends, build your own tasting panel, see what happens when a different group of people taste the same whiskey. I do that sometimes at home with friends. I've got member friends whose houses I go to, and we do the same thing there. I think the most important thing is not to be too led by the existing tasting note. Do your own. See what you can come up with and what it reminds you of. So have fun. Hope to see you again sometime soon. And Slanjiva.